Hello. Today we're going to explore the Parsha Beshallach, when Pharaoh sent the people away. I call this Prophecies of Freedom. First, a joke. God said to Moses, "I'll give you a land of milk and honey with snowy mountains up north, shiny desert in the south, olive trees all around, and a perfect beach all around it." Moses said, "What's the catch?" And God, "Wait till you see your neighbors." Herein lies part of the reason that God led the Hebrews in the desert for 40 years. Yeah, let's all go to the land of milk and honey. However, a few days into their travel, they would have most likely run into an enemy, which would have given them reason to turn tail and go right back to Egypt and slavery. No smoking Sinai, no Toyrah, no us, right here and now. Freedom from versus freedom to. Infinite wisdom doesn't give us easy lessons. In order for the Hebrews to appreciate the promised land, they had to burn their bridges behind them. They needed to have no option of returning. Think of when you've tendered your resignation from a job. There's no going back. You've burned your bridge, and now it's time to find a new job. Running out of an abusive relationship means never going back. And yet, where are you going to live? A recent immigrant who escapes violence in their country of origin and winds up being flown to a small town in New England. That's a totally unknown future for them. They know what they have freedom from, but no vision of what freedom they're moving towards. More work is necessary to rebuild a new identity. We need to make an effort to continue forward without looking back. It often takes many attempts to learn that going back to the same set of circumstances will not produce better results. Unfortunately, we often need more proof in order for us to believe that leaving a bad situation will work to our advantage. Life has many challenging moments, and going back can't be an option. Life has to be lived forward. It takes many challenges and God's intervention to convince the Hebrews to trust in God and in Moses. There's more to the Exodus story. The newly freed Hebrew slaves needed to reorient themselves to living as a freed people with a framework to guide their behavior. They weren't ready to receive the Torah. First, they had to have trust in their leader, which only occurred after the splitting of the sea. As it says in chapter 14, verse 31, they believed in God and in Moses, his servant. Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach quotes the Ishbitzer's teaching on what it meant for the Hebrew slaves being freed. The Ishbitzer says that when God set us free, it doesn't only mean that I'm no longer a slave. Freedom means my relationship to God is on the level of freedom. If I have plans for that which God will do for me, it's sweet, but I'm making God a slave. I'm telling God what to do. To be on the level of freedom with God means that I never need to know what God will end up doing. You see what it is? While we were in Egypt, we hoped we would be free. But the night we got out of Egypt, something happened which we never dreamt about, something we never dared to dream about. So this is what the Ishbitzer says. If I wake up in the morning and I say, today's going to be a good day, it's sweet, but it has to be more than that. When was the last time you woke up in the morning and you were literally ready for unbelievable miracles which you never dared to dream? When I left my husband, I'm going to go into a personal story of freedom. When I left my husband many years ago to claim my freedom, I left behind everything: house, car, kids, household necessities. I moved into a small, barely habitable cabin. One day, while going through the garage next to the hovel I lived in, I found a dirty but salvageable yellow Pyrex bowl. This yellow bowl, although obviously a used and discarded item, was a new acquisition for me. Since I had no money, I didn't have the luxury of going to a store to replace what I'd lost. It was one of the first household items that was totally mine. An item I didn't need anyone's permission to obtain. I continue to use it these many years later. When I look at it, I'm reminded of my extreme good fortune during those fraught years. I woke up every day, never dreaming of the kind, generous people I would meet who gave me things I needed, and most importantly, the love I so desperately craved. I left my creative family for a while. I was rejected by my family of origin for a good while and adopted a new family that I chose to call my own. Speaking of dreams and freedom, the opening of this parsha tells us that Moses remembers a promise that Joseph's brothers made to him to take Joseph's bones out of Egypt. Moses took Joseph's bones with him because he'd made his brothers swear that they would make their children swear to do so, saying, God will surely remember you, and you shall bring my bones from here with you. This instruction passed down through the generations until Moses. Etzem, Hebrew for bones, also means essence. An interesting side note is that the Chinese word for bones also means essence. This signals to me that bones represent the essence of our ancestors. The Babylonian Talmud says that Moses' actions are then rewarded at his death when God buries him. God buried him in valley, it says in Deuteronomy 34:6. Such a high reward for this act demonstrates the important power of Joseph. It also communicates to me that I stand on the shoulders of many people who came before me. How can I best honor their memory? It all goes back to what we read in the Torah in this verse. Fulfill the holy goals set by our people. Now let's go back to another prophet of freedom, Miriam, and consider what she remembered to bring out of Egypt. Earlier in the story, we see Miriam's prophetic power when she insists that her parents have another baby because she knows that the resulting child will be their liberator. What the Torah doesn't explicitly say, but we can easily infer, is that before the Hebrews even left Egypt, Miriam's extraordinary faith and prophecy led her to encourage her sisters to pack their tea rolls for yet an unseen miraculous future event of the sea splitting. An even more inspiring and timeless message here is to remember to have fun. Through all the struggles and harsh conditions she experienced, Miriam never lost her sense of play and joy. She looked forward to the freedom, to joy. We must do the same. Fun is an essential aspect of living a fulfilling life. It's what makes life worth living. And I think this may have inspired Emma Goldman, who famously proclaimed, I didn't believe that a cause which stood for a beautiful ideal for release and freedom should demand the denial of life and joy. If I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution. In this way, she was carrying Miriam's bones. I remembered Rabbi Jonathan saying that it's not enough to survive. We need to celebrate our Jewish heritage with joy. Divarti.